Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts Brandon, Collin, and Aaron. On this week's show, no robot arm. Hello.
Hello.
What is new?
Not a lot. Just getting getting all the Christmas stuff ready for tomorrow,
Fun.
and then the day after that. So yeah, other than that, we're doing pretty good. Was making some more of those on-bark stuff, and looked at the time, and I was like, "Oh no, it's podcasting time." So alas, here I am.
Welcome. Yeah, we had quite the day today. The high was 59 at 9 a.m. this morning. It is now currently real feel 14.
Hey,
And it was snowing a little bit moments ago. And tomorrow is going to be even better. I mean, not much colder.
So better.
Tomorrow, real feel -2 overnight. Hooray.
Oh, yeah.
Have humidifiers going. It gets dry. Turns out in old homes don't hold in the heat very well.
what?
I know.
That's because there was always more coal to add more heat.
Right.
That's why. Just throw some more coal on there. That's that's the philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Why hold in heat when you can just make more?
More.
It's very 19th century. It's very
cold, right? It is a very Victorian, well, that's fine. I'll just burn more of this. Take that.
Yes, because as we know, coal is infinite. So you just wait a minute. Hold on.
Right. It is naturally infinite, which makes things nice. So,
yeah. You know.
It could never run out. Nothing could ever run out.
there will possibly be more coal in about 300 million years.
Well, I mean,
when some of the last coal deposits were laid down, possibly the Coniferous period, roughly 3 to 500 million years ago, somewhere in there.
So
might be slightly off, but yeah, it's fine.
So you're saying there's a chance? Huh?
So I'm saying there's a chance.
I did not hear a no.
Oh boy.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fine. Just cold.
It's Christmassy. It's fine. Nobody likes 65-degree Christmases.
No.
No. I do wish that there were more there was more snow, because it makes the cold kind of worth it. So
that is true. You're at least getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of just for rigid for nothing, like dry and freezing. Like that's a little rough. That's when it feels real cold. Because it's not like, I don't know, at least here, even though it's like those times when it's quote unquote dry, it's still just, it just still feels really damp. Right? You know what I mean? Like you're still like, ugh. So at least if there's snow, it looks nice. And you're like, yay.
It's pretty. Hooray.
It's pretty. Instead of just like, why?
Why is everything so awful?
Yes. That's when the dog walking is real short. Like, all right, Chuck will be outside for 20 seconds. Like, I'm done. Back inside. So that was how it was this evening, right before supper. Right? He's like, nope, not going out there.
Poor guy.
Sorry. The old dogs don't like it out here. Bye.
Aww.
No.
Other than being frozen today and not having enough coal on hand, how's your day been? Your week been, I guess.
It's been fine. It's a short week for us. 3-day week because we get tomorrow and Friday off, and so it kind of makes a work week interesting when it's only 3 days. So just trying to get things wrapped up, but it's also been good because it's been able. I've focused. I don't know how to explain this, but I've been focusing more on some things that don't need a lot of time, right? So they're these little tiny projects that have just kind of been stacking up because I've been devoting everything else to these big projects. And now it's like, well, I don't want to launch into a big project this week, so I'll just do these little things, and that's felt nice. It's felt more productive because I've been able to check off more things from my list.
You actually get things done that way, right?
Yes.
Doesn't take like many days to be like, oh, I'm done now.
Right. And so yeah, that's been nice. But no, I had my boss reach out to me about one of my objectives for the year was to sit on a panel to create. They asked for input on this in science branch. We're in science now. Of hey, we want to make a process to take in project proposals, rank them, and score them against each other, and then fund project. And I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like fun. I'll help on that, and I'll put it on one of my objectives, so that it shows that I'm working with people and doing stuff." And that was literally a year ago.
That doesn't sound fun at all. I just want to throw that out there. It's like the least fun.
I don't know. It's kind of fun to you get to design a process, right? You get to design and collaborate with people. Like, okay, how do we want this to look? What is the from start to finish? Anyway, I thought it'd be interesting. Turns out,
not fun.
I put my name on it, and they were like, "Great, we'll be in touch." And then a year later, I find out, well, they've already decided on the process, and I haven't been involved at all.
Oh, well, there you go.
And so I was like, well, I'm need to take that off of my objective list for this year so that I can, not have it, I can actually focus on something else. I was like,
that's true. And it doesn't come in your review thing. I see that you did not do this at all. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is not my fault because they did it without me. So,
oh my gosh, here's this crazy concept of there are so many forms in the world to tell you that you did something, but to get a form that says the reason you didn't do something was because that something ceased to exist or wasn't required anymore, those kind of forms aren't real. I don't know why we don't track that kind of thing. Perfect example.
Because that looks bad on a spreadsheet. And so, as we know, if you don't track the bad things, then you have only done good.
But I'm not even
That's how it works.
I'm not even saying tracking bad. Like, here's a perfect example. I had reason to go get a paid receipt for my 2019 personal taxes. They said, okay, you need to go get a paid receipt for your personal property taxes for 2019. I was like, sweet. So I went to the courthouse and I was paying my 2020 personal property taxes anyway. So I was like, here is this. Oh, can I get a receipt for last year's as well? I don't know where mine is at home and I need the receipt. And they looked it up online and they said, oh, you didn't owe any in 2019. To which I said, so how do I show them that the reason I can't give them a receipt is because I didn't owe anything? And they looked at me and said, we don't know. And I was like, you don't have like a waiver or something? And they're like, well, we have waivers that we can give to the DMV. And so what vehicle is it on? And I was like, well, it's not for a vehicle. I'm not trying to get a vehicle registered. It's because, it's for my business stuff. And they were like, no, we don't know how to do that. Could you have them call us and we'll just tell them over the phone? And I was like, are you serious? Like this thing's never come up before.
Yes. Yes, perfect.
Like there was nothing to say. The reason this person cannot give you a receipt is because there was no receipt to be had because they didn't owe anything, right? It's just like,
again,
oh,
the concept of not owing anything is also very foreign to entities such as this, right?
Sure.
It's not a thing that you like. People don't understand that. Like, what do you mean you don't owe money?
Yeah.
Why? Are you a hermit?
Right?
Are you some sort of hobo? Like what? Like it's like
no, yeah, it was so weird. It was so bizarre, and I think it was because of like when we moved and when we got vehicles registered and switched over and all this stuff that
it was all a weird time, and
it was a weird time frame, and we didn't owe, and so it was like I don't know what to tell you
because you moved from a different state, so like
moved from a different state, and then we had this holdover where the cars didn't get registered. Anyway, it was very weird, and so
because they're still registered in your previous state until you
right? So it was like, I'm like this receipt, and they were like, oh, we can't do anything, just have them call us and we'll tell them that you don't.
It's like, here's what you do. Here's a napkin. You write it out. Probably a piece of paper would work better. Here's a random blank piece of office paper. I need you to type that. Give it to your little notary person. Go, bam, stamp it up. Sign it, stamp it. That's what I need. You can make it.
That's what I would do.
If it's notarized, it's fine.
In Microsoft Word and say, Collin doesn't have a receipt because he doesn't owe anything. Signed, county assessor, right? And then I would just take this over and hand it to them.
To whom it may concern. Right.
They wouldn't do that. I was like, what?
That's what I would have done. Like, I don't have a form. I'll make one. It's fine.
Yeah.
You signed this for me. Thank you. I'll make it. Right. It's like, put this on somebody's to-do list tomorrow to I don't know. Like,
well, also, I imagine that the amount of times that particular thing comes up, right, which it sounds like last year in your county was 1. Like devoting any sort of resources to coming up with a solution to a problem that basically never exists ever is sort of like not. But no one's going to do that.
But here's the thing,
because it is. Well, yeah, but you have my luck. Like, I'm always the one person that it applies to. It's like, gosh, what the heck?
I know.
Why? Why does it never work?
It's the frustrating part because I'm going, I was in the county assessor's office for 45 minutes trying to figure this out. I guarantee you. It was so bad. I guarantee you that it's not going to take you another 45 minutes to copy and save that form somewhere and save it on a desktop or whatever, right? It's just like,
that's true too.
Like, do it one time.
I have a really bad habit of doing that, right? Because I at work, at school, like I have a really bad habit of like, oh, I need to make a thing for this. And so I like whip it up real fast and then I print it. I'm like, all right, done. And then I close the program. And then I don't have it anymore. So, or I've done it in, because I started last year, I just started doing it all in like Google Docs, right? But sometimes because I did it all in like a hurry, you know, I'd be like, oh, snap, I need this for today. And I would just like do it, blam. The thing that I would forget is like the title. Right. So the document has no title. So right. Like it's in my drive somewhere. Where though?
Yeah.
And it's one of the like 75 things called untitled documents.
Ow. Copy of untitled document. Copy of untitled document.
Yeah. So sort of like open a bunch of them. Like, is that? No, that's not it. What about this? No, that's not it either.
You the one? Are you the one? Oh, no.
Yeah, no. My file management is quite poor because I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do this right now. Because again, I only think about like what's happening right this second. So the thought that I'm like going to need this again in a year is like not ever a thought that crosses my mind. And so I'm just like, do, go along with thing. And then the next year comes and I'm like, where's that thing I did? Where did I put that? Dang it.
It is, and even if you go through that whole process, like for work, like we have, oh my gosh, it took me months just to learn the centralized like storage on the server for all the files that we have and that we maintain, all the folder structure and all of this.
Oh yeah, I don't even know how ours works because we have one of those, like a central server data bank thing for the school. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of a hot mess, and it's full of just like everybody's like dumb pictures for their clubs and stuff they put in there.
Sure.
And it's constantly full.
Oh, no.
And so like I don't even touch it anymore. I've never really, I know it exists, but I don't touch it at all. So that's
yeah.
I'm out on that.
Yeah. Ours is on the InDrive, and I'm constantly in there. I'm constantly going and looking for documents and looking for, see if we did a site visit there years ago, or looking up this.
Yeah, well,
this
it's a little more applicable.
This research article that was written that pertains to certain something, but it still is just like, I mean, it can take 14 clicks just to get to a document. And at any point along that folder structure, if you get off, you end up way, way wrong. And search doesn't work, and it's awful because nothing's tagged or anything like that. So
Sure. Well, that's another one of those things too. Like at this point, like actually trying to fix it would be worse than just sort of dealing with it, right? Like there's a tipping point somewhere where just like going in and like mining through all that stuff and like actually trying to sort it and catalog it and fix it would just be the worst. Right. So just sort of dealing with it and learning how to work around it is actually easier by comparison.
So the one big shift that I did have to do, because it was unworkable for me, was the gentleman who previously had my position organized all of his files by biologist name.
What?
So if he went on a if he went on a landowner visit, he would not put what county or what stream it was on or what region was it. It went under, this is my Nathan folder, and all of my stuff that has to do with Nathan that he's the point goes in there, which to a brand new person is completely meaningless. Terrible. I don't know who these people are.
First of all, who the heck is Nathan?
and he
or like Steve that worked there 20 years ago. He's got his own folder. You're like, what the heck is this?
Yes, that's the thing, is that he had biologists in there who had moved on to other positions, who were there for 3 years and then left. And so I'm brand new. I have no idea who any of these people are. And I'm trying to figure out all this stuff and learn the history of this biologist position in the Ozark region. And actually 4 people have been there over the past 15 years. So look for these 4 names. Anyway, it's ridiculous. So
that might be the worst possible metric to sort by.
It made no sense to me. No sense to me. So I had to take this whole structure.
Not least why, because potentially you could have the same section of stream filed under 7 different biologist names.
Yes.
And you can't cross-reference and be like, no, it's this thing.
Nope.
But like,
and that became
7 people gave their opinions on it.
And that became really hard to try and track that stuff down. And so I had to spend about a month of not constantly working on this, but very focused work of tearing into both the digital files and all of the paper files that I have at the office and re-putting this into, I do region, I do county, and I do stream. And that's what I do, right? Because that's what makes sense, right? And then I have all the information of everybody there. But that way you can see, oh, have we ever had a question about the North Fork branch of Beaver Creek? Okay, I don't know. But let me go check for my North Fork branch of Beaver Creek folder and see if it exists.
I mean, that just makes infinitely more sense than a dude's name. Like, how in the world are you ever going to find that again? Like, I don't know.
Yep. And, to somebody who was in the position for 35 years, it made perfect sense. He knew exactly. And but he never thought.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. It would be usable.
Usable, yes.
But it doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Like, it still doesn't make sense to do that. Like, imagine if the state of Oklahoma did not have a county file, then they just had a file called Aaron.
Hello.
And it was like, wait. not cities, not addresses, not geographic regions. It just said Aaron. And you needed to find a family's name. You never, again, it would just be lost forever on a computer server.
Yeah, and it
somewhere.
Makes it completely unusable by anybody else except for one person. And,
yeah,
right. And that's where it breaks down. So, yeah, and there's still things like that in the server that I find or I'll find the same document filed in like 6 different folders because a couple people found the same thing and thought they would file it and never told anybody else that they filed it or
somewhere else. Yeah.
Somebody else, things like that.
Or that's the way they cross-referenced it, right? Like old school. How do you cross-reference it? Well, you just have 7 copies in 7 different places.
Yes. 100%.
Right?
I find that constantly.
Like we can't you're just pretending that your computer's a file cabinet at that point. Yeah. Right?
That's how people. Or my favorite is they'll also, within a folder, they'll have a shortcut to another folder within that folder. And you can just ping between all of these different folder groups because someone's placed a shortcut there. Because they're like, oh, I was in here one time working on sand and gravel permit.
Got all these relevant things. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to go sprinkle these breadcrumbs throughout the folder structure. And it's like, oh, gosh, I don't... Sure, whatever.
How fun.
So, anyway. Fun. Satisfying now. But, Aaron,
sure.
Aaron, what have you been up to?
How's your data management, Aaron? How's it? No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I think the listeners are tired of data management.
That was the hardest thing of coming, especially in the DHS, because a lot of the stuff was always done a certain way and just things just never changed. And so if you read a lot of the older like case files on like a certain family or something, like there's a lot of stuff that's just in all like acronyms. And
yes.
And so you have to like decipher, and whenever you have to staff a case, you're like, oh, so what did you get in history? And you're like, if it's anything past like 2005, I have no idea because none of it makes sense.
It's this dead language that I can't figure out. It's like Aramaic, right? Like I got to translate it out.
But as far as like anything new, I am, like I say, we're getting ready for Christmas festivities tomorrow at Shelby's dad's house, and then we're gonna go to her mom's house for more festivities, and then kind of that's about it. For Christmas / my birthday, Shelby got me a gaming laptop, and so I have just been when I'm not working, obviously.
Yeah, Warhammer for days. We know. It's fine.
I've been playing massive amounts of that. But we finished Christmas shopping. I can't complain too much because I was about to make a comment about, oh well, I only had to pay $160 for my car to get new oil and a new taillight and alignment, and then I was like, ugh, Collin, sorry.
Hey, do you want to hear about transmission repairs?
You didn't want to rip the tail out. Let me tell you, Aaron, if you want to have an adventurous afternoon, replace your own lights in your car. I'm telling you, boy, it's so much fun.
I tried. But I was just like, I have to go get my oil done. Why don't I just do it there?
It's true.
And so I just went and had like, lunch. Like
It's one of those things. Like I'm fully capable of changing the oil in a car. Like I know how to do it. I know how it works. But like it's such a hassle.
Yeah.
And then you have all this leftover oil. You got to like do something with it. Like take it somewhere, and like it's all a whole thing.
Yeah.
So
I did that today. Finished up some other Christmas shopping, and then I came back and worked. And thankfully, we have tomorrow off.
So Warhammer.
I don't think I had a lot of steam left or a lot of gas left in the tank for 2 more days of work, because today Wednesday.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely did not have enough fuel to last me. Yeah, and like 2 more days. Some of my cases are quite interesting, and I was like, Christmas could get here a little bit sooner. That'd be fine. So thankfully it has arrived. But yeah, other than that, no new like super recent developments. I'm looking around our little office. It's full of Christmas items and goodies, but yeah, I was gonna go over and cook some of the almond bark stuff, which I still can't figure out what the heck they're called. And yeah, just kind of go from there. So I got driving all over the world as usual.
We're gonna call them candied pretzels. That's what we're gonna name them right now.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing to call them. And so yeah, other than that, that's all I got on our end down here. Like I said, not a whole lot cooking. Yeah, that's all I got, really.
Nice, taking it easy.
It's been a very very short and yet well needed week. So yeah, I've done the bare minimum to call it good and be like, yeah, I'm done.
What's hard? Like you get that fatigue, right? It's just like I can't. Why I can't function? And like it's just a thing. So it's definitely nice to have some time off to do just literally anything else, right? Like it's a mental fatigue thing. We're just like it's very draining, right? And I think many jobs have that. Yours specifically, but like I think that's a problem for a lot of people, right? Just this, you do a thing like all day and then you go home and you're like, you just get up and do it again. So after a long time of that, you sort of feel like you're not actually doing anything because it's just very repetitive, you know what I mean? Or very similar at least. And without breaks for other stuff, it's just very mentally taxing.
Yeah.
It can be real draw on the facilities. So like, like my job, I feel that way sometimes, those big gaps between things, like, it's like, it's not bad. I like it and it's fun, but like after a while, after like a couple, after like 2-3 months with no like extra, like extended weekend break or whatever, it's like, why?
That's definitely kind of the thing that I did really enjoy when I was a teacher, of getting to actually have like, I call them legitimate break, because I only get like a few days off.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really going to bring up the fact that I've been off all week, but since you did, I'm just saying I've been.
While we're on the topic, I've been off all week.
I have been playing video games and guitars all week long. That's what I've been doing. So I really have nothing to add to the like what have you been up to conversation. Like unless you want to talk about the weirdness that is Cyberpunk 2077, we can talk about that if you want to.
Been playing that?
Okay,
yeah.
So
really?
Okay,
yeah, I got it.
Quick, didn't that get pulled from the store?
Yeah, so it's kind of like not done.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like I heard a lot about that. that people were complaining about it because it wasn't.
Yeah, it's like not quite. It's like it's not quite polished. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's done technically, but is it functionally complete? No, not really.
Okay,
it's still pretty enjoyable. Like, I'm still having fun with it, but there's some times you're like, what is happening? Why is nothing loading? Like, what's going on? Now, I will say, in defense, it's like it's hyper ambitious, the thing that they have attempted to do here, right? But like, because the scope of what they were going for is insane. Like, it's massive. But yeah, I think they probably could have delayed another 6 months. I think that might have been good for them.
Because that was the biggest thing that people were pretty upset about, is that it's been delayed so many times.
Yeah, it need to be delayed some more though.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they kind of gave in. People were like, oh, just release it already. And they're like, oh, okay, here it is. And it's not quite finished yet.
Oh no, why did you release it?
Like, the polish is just like weird. Like, sometimes things will like load funny, or like stuff will like just disappear. You're like, what's going on? The concept though, I enjoy and I like very much. And I think that's what's making it still playable. That's why I'm still sort of just tooling around in it, is because everything else is so interesting. Like, just in general, like the lore and the general setting and stuff is really cool. But like, functionally, you're like, this could have. It's not quite right.
So
it's a little rougherino.
So you say what they were trying to do was ambitious. What does that mean in the context?
Okay, so
game, whatever.
So basically, they have created one gigantic city, right? That is completely opened. No loading, no nothing.
Oh, geez.
Right? When you go in a building, it's just, you just walk in.
Just there.
Right? You go all the way across the map. Right? It's just there. There's no loading sections. There's nothing. So the scope is, and it's big. Right? It's not like a little tiny area, which is what most people try to do. They make it smaller because then it's all more containable. And then there's like little tricks you do where, like, well, you don't load this part in because you technically can't see it and it's not there. And so you don't load that area to save your CPU memory stuff, right? This one feels like sometimes it's just like, yep, here's everything all at once. Like, oh, why? So like a lot of it is just like textures don't come in, right? Like textures don't load right. Things don't. And then they sort of like catch up all of a sudden, like, oh, there it is, boom, there's your like, is that a gray blob building? Like, oh, okay. So it's kind of cool, but like, yeah, it's just not quite done. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They've been like furiously putting out patches, but my internet is so not great that I'm not going to be able to download them. Because, for example, the patch that was out currently, 1.05, would you like to take a guess at the file size of just the patch to fix some of the issues they have?
So I was going to ask about total file size of the game. The patch? Oh no, I have no idea where to even start.
So important to know. I don't know what the PC download is. It's probably enormous. The Xbox disc download is 70 gig.
What?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I looked at the patch download that they were like, oh, it'll fix a lot of the stuff. 40 gig patch.
That's a
what? What? Excuse you? That's how not done we're talking.
Wow.
So I think I look for. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's really weird. So like they just kind of bought into the whole pressure of the, oh my gosh, we just got to release. The other thing that you need to know, this game has been in development for something like 10 years.
Yeah, that because I remember that's like another reason why people are like, just release
It's
it.
like one of the most anticipated things ever. And so like, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, we just want it. We just want to play it. And they just gave in. They're like, all right, let's do it. Let's let good. They shouldn't have done that. This summer probably would have been a good time to drop it, right? Like, I think not a lot of games come out in the summer anyway. Drop that sucker in June, you know, bang, here it is. Like, it's a little, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if I can actually finish it. That'll be is it actually finishable, or will some terrible thing happen where it like blows up my save file?
Yeah. See, I would be so worried that downloading that size of file would I don't know, just the number of things that can go wrong over the course of that download just terrifies me.
Right. And it's, again, all that data that's shoved in there is very, like, it's very, you know. So again, they were ambitious. That's something they were. Can't tell them they weren't ambitious about it. Because I like the whole like cyberpunk aesthetic thing in general. I find it very interesting. Right, it's very cool. I mean, there's a lot of, it's not represented a lot in media. Like, it's in a lot of books, you know, but like, it's kind of a hard thing to describe in a book. Like, the cyberpunk like aesthetic is kind of, it really does, it is aided by visual media, right? The whole like cybernetic implant people thing, like, you know, and then there's all the subcontext of like people losing their humanity because they're too much, you know, cyber. Like, it's really kind of cool. There's like these cool, like, little underlying stories you can tell about stuff. It's very interesting. Like, and like the aesthetic design is very pleasing, right? Like, these big giant cities with like mega buildings, you know, like those super towers that have like everything in one deal. You know, people live there, and there's like stores and everything like in a building. So kind of interesting. Design wise, but yeah, it's pretty broken. So, but that's what I've been doing. I've been exploring all the weird, and the driving physics is not great.
What does that mean?
The way that like cars and stuff actually physically respond to driving is sometimes like, what is happening? What is this? And that notoriously, this has been a problem in video games. Like, there are like games don't always do this good anyway. A lot of times driving is like the worst part of games. It's just not, for whatever reason, they just do it bad. There are notable exceptions that do it really, really good. I mean, outside of like actual racing games where it's the whole point. So those ones work good. But like, obviously, hopefully, not all of them actually, but they should. Some of them do. Like Sleeping Dogs, the driving in the game is like, that's really good. But like, a lot of times it just feels really skatey, you know? Like, it's just like sliding about. It feels like the input response is not matching what you're seeing, you know?
Yeah.
So it just feels all slidey. And the fact that textures load in like randomly doesn't help, because like, because all of a sudden be like, oh, that flat thing is a curb, and you're like, oh no. And then the car like magically responds to the curb that just appeared under it, so it kind of like.
This reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember this, the episode in Top Gear where Clarkson drives. He has, I don't forget what he's playing with, the video game, and he's driving a Honda NSX around Laguna Seca, and then he goes to Laguna Seca and he tries.
I think it's Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo. Yes.
Tries to match his time.
The place. Well, yeah.
And just, you know, it was very. You're talking about how the driving mechanics are kind of wonky and don't match, and it just instantly took me back to that episode where he's driving and he's like, "This isn't working," or he's like, you know, "No, I've got to slow a lot further down here than I do in the video game." I'm like, "Well, of course you are, like, duh." But
Well, yeah, because I don't know, even they do a better job now. Like, because that was probably PlayStation 2, maybe so a while ago. But like the maybe even PlayStation 1. I don't remember. Anyways,
that was back in 2005, 2004, 2005.
So that probably would have been. Well, that was just the release of the PlayStation 2, somewhere in there. So could have been 2 or 1 of those early. Those early ones, the gravity, like the mass of the car was not matching really. So like when you brake, it doesn't react completely how you think it's going to.
Yeah.
Now they do a lot better. Like later Gran Turismos and then the what's it called, the Forza games.
Yeah,
they're really good. Like, so like when you play a game like Forza, because I have that Forza Horizon, the one that's like open world, drive around England, Forza Horizon 4, right? You just like go to these like road races on the country lanes and stuff. So you can really, they've done a lot better job. It was like when you tap the brakes, you can feel the weight in the car like shift forward. You know what I mean? So you have to you can load up that forward momentum before you turn. So you hit the brakes first, and then the car on screen, you can see it responding how you think it should be doing. Again, that game is only about driving cars, though.
Right.
That's it.
Not packed.
That's the only thing you can do is drive a car. So
it's not packed into a massive, massive world with a plot and everything else.
Plots and side plots and random things and items and crafting and shops and gun mods and clothing mods and physical cybernetic body mods that you have to try to make and attach to yourself so you can do all kinds of stuff better. Yeah. So
it's a lot.
I can see why the driving wasn't the priority, but there is a racing side quest. So you gotta give, because every open world game has to have, it's mandatory, I think, a racing side quest that you can do if you want to. It's just, they all have it. Every single one. Oh bro, there's street race, every single one. I don't know why. But they all have it. It's in there someplace. You meet a guy and they're like, oh yeah, bro, you can earn some money, street race. It's the same. The exact same plot line. Every single, it's there. So if you're going to make street racing a thing that you want me to do, maybe your car physics should be a little better. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Maybe next time. Next time they'll get to it.
Maybe next. I'm wondering if they're going to make a couple DLC things for it, and then re-release a patched, completely patched, already built-into game version with additional stuff for people that have either returned it or been not bought it yet because they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wonder if they can do something like that in 6 months to a year. Okay, well, here's here's some more content we've added to it. Here's some more stuff. Here's a fixed version. And we're gonna repackage that and sell it to people who are unhappy with the first one, maybe. So I wonder if they do something like that.
Yeah. Because you can only send out so many patches before you're missing the people who got rid of it before that patch came. So how you
exactly they gave up on it. They were like, this is unplayable in its current state, and so I can't. You know what I mean? They got to get it out, or especially people that play on consoles or something. Because PC people are notorious for I'll download whatever. Who cares? Go for it. But yeah, that other demographic might just be oh, yeah, they need more stuff. So I wonder if they'll do something like that eventually. A repackaged, okay, here's a fixed stuff with extra content. Everything's included in the thing. Try again. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes because they're in some lawsuit terms now. So we'll see.
Really? I mean, are people going after him for that? Or
some of the publishers are. They're like, yo, you sent us stuff that's not done.
Oh no.
Yeah, like it's not like me who's like, oh no, I'm mad.
You're not
bruh.
joining a class
Like,
action lawsuit.
yeah, I don't think so. I think it's like distributors and stuff that were like, guys, what are you doing? Why are you trying to market and sell this game that's like not finished?
if they have to purchase their stock and supply it, and then they're the ones doing the interface.
They're going to take the hit on the returns, right?
Yeah, that'd be really annoying.
Like XYZ Game Store, they bought I don't know. Let's just for scale, we'll say they bought 100 of the copies, right? But then like 50 people return them. Like, so now they're out that cost of that. They've got to buy it all back at full price. They're not making money off the thing. Then they got to get that money back from the game developer somehow. Like, how do you recoup that loss that you...
Which I'm sure they...
And the great irony here... Yes, the great irony here is this whole game is about like... For those of you not familiar with like the cyberpunk like aesthetic, like the whole kind of shtick is like corporations bad, right? Like they're in charge in the cyberpunk universe is like big giant companies rule everything and they have all the power of everything, like government, everything, and like the undergroup people are like much more dystopian. They're like people living on the streets or in like these ramshackle things, and it all exists while these corporations trying to sell them stuff to try to make their lives better, and then the corporations just use that money to control everything else. So the great irony here is that the game is about that, and then the game companies that publish that are like, no, it's fine, don't worry, just give us all your money and everything will be okay. So that irony is not lost on me. It's literally they're getting in trouble for some of the exact same things that are happening
in the game,
in their story that they wrote.
They forgot it wasn't a playbook. Oh no!
Yes. Oops. So that's the other interesting thing. So that's why I like that fiction. Like, it's really kind of cool. And then every once in a while, though, you do read some like fiction like that, and you go, wait a minute, that's real. But I don't have a robot arm. Dang it!
Yet, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the other thing about, particularly in this sort of universe about it, like becoming. In a lot of them, like too many cybernetics become like a bad thing for the person, right? So then there's this like quandary that a lot of the fiction discusses of like where a lot of it's about like humanity, right? Like what is humanity? Like when you tie yourself to too much of a machine, and then like, do you lose your humanity? Are you still human? What about beings that are constructed, like AI constructs that have bodies? Like, do they possess humanity? Is that innate? Do they gain it? Do they program it? Like, what is the meaning of humanity? Is kind of the underlying theme of a lot of the stuff, which is kind of cool, It's a nice little tie together. It's very interesting, though.
Yeah, because you do the okay. I need my robot arm that helps me be better. But then where does that discussion of where does that stop? For the person,
yeah.
Right? But before, as you said, before they quote unquote lose their humanity, and then I know a lot of that is that even a bad thing to be worried about? Or do you just fully embrace that and go, well, this is the new world? And this is where this is
exactly. And that the one of the weird like random side plot things that you do in the game, you have to deal with something called cyber psychosis. Like there are people that have become too modified and it really affects their brains, and they just kind of start going Like they basically malfunction. Right. So it's almost like some sort of computer or some machine has malfunctioned and like gone off and done something bad. So they like end up hurting people or something because they just can't like control anymore. And it is because, is it because they lost their humanity? Is it because something has taken over their humanity? Like what, that whole kind of, that is the part that interests, it's like the coolest part about that whole kind of genre, I think, is some of the themes and stuff it explores are not found often in other places. Like, unless you want to read some Jean-Paul Sartre, which, I mean, who doesn't? Oh, man. Just so easy to read. Wait.
It's the brevity at which he writes that really helps.
Yeah. If you really just want... Because, I'm sure some people just love to spend a Saturday afternoon reading French philosophers, but like, that's, it's fine. It has its place. I've read some of it. It's not as digestible if there's not robots in it. Let's be real. It's just not true. Right? Or if there's like sweet motorcycles. Right. Let's be real. Helps. The best thing about cyberpunk aesthetic is the vehicle design that is known. It's the coolest. Specifically motorcycle design. It's the best. Which is why I think it benefits so much, again, from visual media. Because, like, you can read about it and it's fine. You kind of, the themes are important. So the themes are often discussed in the media, visual, in the written media. But to add the extra layer of coolness, the visual is like really important to the aesthetic. The whole thing is like a very visual.
Because, to really understand the setting and the context for a lot of those themes, you do have to, in my mind, I agree, you do have to have the visual component to immerse yourself. That like really weird, like futuristic kind of thing. Like, it's one thing to read about somebody that has a cyborg arm, but when you just see them in a movie or a television show or a video game, like walking around the street, they just have like a robot hand. Like, it's a different mood, right? It's like, it's a very different tone because it's almost like, it's not specifically brought up. Like in a book, the author's like, hey, look at this thing. But in something like that, they have to, because that's really the only thing. Because it's a book.
Because a book. Yeah. But like, other things like that, it's just there, and it sort of creates the world. It's more that world building we talked about before a little bit. Like,
yeah,
it's just a way to build that world around it so that it's more interesting and it feels more fleshed out. Mm-hmm. So, like, when the NPCs decide to load into the area, obviously. But like it does do a better job of world building, in my opinion. So there are certain genres that just need a visual media, I think.
Yeah. Well, because fundamentally, like, how would you differ? Like, if you just took themes and kind of general story arc, it'd be really hard to differentiate something like Mad Max and like Tron or Legacy or Blade Runner or kind of stuff, because they all deal with these similar themes, but because they're set in a completely different world, right? Completely different. It means something different, right? So if you go and you watch, Ghost in a Shell or like Ready Player One or Tron, these kind of things, like there is an inherent
Akira.
difference there, right?
Yeah. That's definitely That's a big. The visual difference does aid in the storytelling, right? And you're right. Like in a book, it's just Jean-Paul Sartre again. Cool.
Which if that, right? If you're a Sartreite, go ahead, do your thing.
A Sartian,
right? You're Sartian.
Yeah. But you're right. It does add, because it's very, like, I don't know. I encountered, I think, a good example of this that I just remembered. Again, for those of you who are not familiar with French philosophy or Jean-Paul Sartre or I had to look up his name because I forgot who it was, but Descartes is the other one, right? Rene Descartes.
Yeah, really.
He's the
car race through the desert.
No, that's the Paris Dakar. This is Rene Descartes. He's the Cargito ergo sum guy, right? I think, therefore I am.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
So you can read that treatise. You can. That's a thing you can do. I've read it. I read it in philosophy class in college. Right. It's pretty interesting. But basically he's talking about existence and like, how do you know you exist? Right. One of the great philosophical questions. How do you know you are you? Okay. He goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on about this forever. He makes some pretty good points, but it's not easy to read. It's not accessible.
No.
Okay. So that's fine. I unknowingly encountered that idea for the first time when I was in middle school in a Star Wars Extended Universe book.
Hey.
Oh.
Right. So I unknowingly, somebody else had read Descartes as well. And the I think, therefore I am, right? That's how he determines that he knows he exists, right? I think, I have thoughts, I have feelings. So that means I must exist. I must be a real person. That's kind of the conclusion he draws. It takes him a lot longer to do that. But I encountered this thought in a Star Wars Extended Universe story about the robot bounty hunter IG-88. In like the Tales of the Bounty Hunters book, I think that's what it's called. So he is an AI robot construct. And he's sort of like, throughout all his bounty hunting, he's sort of like struggling with like, how does he know he's a real person and not just how does he know that he's is he a real person or is he just an AI computer program? Right. So he's like kind of going through this whole thing internally throughout the book. So the book, he's like flying around, bounty hunting, doing all this stuff. But the whole time he's sort of struggling with like, am I just a droid? Am I just a computer program? Or am I a person? Like, do I exist? Like, for real? Do I really think about, And he, in the book somewhere, he says that one of the chapters or something is basically a paraphrased version of I think, therefore I am. Right? So, like, he is doing this whole thing and kind of going, and that's a very cyberpunk like thought process with that aesthetic, right? With the robot and the thing. And I'm pretty sure Descartes probably wasn't thinking about robots and artificial intelligences.
Yeah.
But not the principle still applies. I mean, he could have been a closet futurist. I don't know. But like, it definitely adds to the story in the fact that it's a robot and it's in a place you're familiar with, like a design aesthetic you're very familiar with. It makes the story much more accessible. And you really discover more themes that way, hidden inside the Star Wars universe that people want to read about, right? So you can like sneak them in there. Boom. French philosophy in in Star Wars.
Yeah, but it's a good point in that many of those philosophers, obviously, in how they wrote, were writing at a very high level, very abstracted level, many times without a lot of concrete examples, or they didn't put it into a story for you to witness or watch or to relate to. So to have it kind of translated,
unless their name is Voltaire.
Well, yeah, unless that happens. But that's why reading literature, stories, just in general, are so important because they can get these kind of messages across that are very profound, where if you have to sit there and read Descartes and all of his friends, you wouldn't get there as easily.
They need to be. Yeah, it's very helpful to have them transposed into some sort of other media, right? Which again is just kind of interesting. I find it very interesting that that's just an example that I specifically have, that like I encountered that thought process like in different media and sort of like started digesting it long before I ended up in college and read Descartes and was like, yo, I know this. Like,
yeah,
I know what this guy's talking about because I've seen it somewhere else. It'd been parsed for me in something digestible. So now when you see it in, like, it's almost a trope for me at this point because I see it in all these other places. Like, you watch, maybe it's just because I like that kind of media, but you watch other things like Blade Runner. That's literally Blade Runner, right? Like that. That's part of the Blade Runner thing. That movie Chappie, that I don't think anybody but me likes.
The South African film, yeah.
Oh man, that movie's so good. People got to give Chappie a chance, man. That movie's great. That movie does a similar thing with him, right? He's this like crime-fighting robot, and he's like, but you know, am I also like a real thing? And that movie has some other themes it deals with, because he sort of like gains sentience, but then he's like in the company of like some criminals for a while, you know? And then like, so it kind of talks about like, it kind of touches on the theme of like nature versus nurture, but with like robot AI, you know, like who is responsible for it after it's created? Like you can't, you know, can you just create it and just let it exist? Or do you need to create it and hope you create it right the first time and it'll be fine? Or do you need to guide it in its learning to make it how you want? Like there's a lot of those kind of themes in there. And I think if you're not ready for it, and if you think, you know, that movie is, if you want to go into a movie and watch like, gun, shoot, robot, yes, it's excellent. But there's also a lot more minutia in there of like this very interesting stuff of who is responsible for Chappie, right? Like if you think Chappie is bad at this point, is that Chappie's fault? Or was he just raised, quote unquote, raised after he came, you know, to life by these, he was in the company of these nefarious individuals and he learned from them how to be. So is it his fault he's bad, or is perceived as bad, or is he just a product of his environment, right? So I think that's one of my favorite parts about that movie. Not only is it visually just like super interesting, but like there's lots of those subtle themes in there that I think some people don't like because that they weren't really expecting that, you know, or some people just missed it altogether because they're like, you know, robot shoot other robot, which again, fine, it's very cool. I like that. I like RoboCop, right? It's cool. RoboCop's another example.
I was just
of
about
that kind of that thing. It's like, speaking of,
right.
That's another example of like that movie is good as just an action movie, right? But that's also like, you know, Murphy struggling with turning into a robot, right? Is he just RoboCop? Is he still Alex Murphy? Like, can those two things exist simultaneously? Does one have to overpower the other? Like, you know,
So
are you? Go ahead,
I gotta say, there is one movie that I do like that not a lot of people do. It's the new version of Judge Dredd.
I never saw that one.
Nope.
Oh man, I can't.
Judge Dredd also pretty cyberpunky though, I think.
Well, I was gonna say, it seems like
there's another one that I wanted to watch I never got around to. It's that Ex Machina movie, which basically the whole movie is like a Turing test.
Yeah, I hear that.
A Turing test,
really,
right?
Really good one.
It's one of those ones I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch that. I just never did, never.
But it seems like the cyberpunk genre really fits into these kind of philosophical questions because it is merging two different worlds with something and going, is this still real? Right? Is this still real? And so it's just interesting to see how these common themes of self, of humanity, of reality come up in the cyberpunk genre. And I think that's just because of what it's mushing together with quote reality and computers, you're able to ask those kind of questions.
Yeah, it does make it. Yeah, you can bite off those big questions that are not because some of those themes don't show up in other media, right? They don't really fit in other genres, right? Like you're not going to just throw that in a Western, right? Like, do I actually exist? Like, I mean. You can. I mean, you could try.
Yeah.
It might. The results would be peculiar.
It's harder to get the characters to that point. Like, what do you put in the world to have them questioning their self and their reality?
Yeah. But like the nature of that, like hard science fiction element, right? Really does facilitate more of that kind of thought process, right? You can add those themes in there, like the sci-fi part. Really, I say hard science fiction. A lot of times it's pretty. There's a lot of detailed in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a cool thing, and I do like some of those themes because, like you said, you don't encounter them other places. And so it's good to have, different stuff show up and be like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Oh, I hadn't thought about that before because it doesn't fit in with other media as well, right? Like historical fiction, not really the place for existential thought about existence all the time, right? Like, just
Well, sounds like, in your week off, you've really been busy in that.
Philosophizing, right? That's what we're going to call it. Pretty good.
Literally an armchair philosopher.
Yes, literally.
Philosophy through...
I would argue there's not any other kind of philosopher than armchair philosophy, right?
Oh,
not really.
Okay, here come the letters
not
from
an
the philosophers. Great.
Yes, the one philosophy professor that listens to us is going to be very irate now. I'm sorry.
Right into we don't care. America Street 123.
Right into. I haven't taken philosophy class in a long time, and when I did, I was sitting in a chair the whole time. So
USA 321. America.
Now easy.
Hard. Okay.
Don't play into the stereotypes, Collin. That's rude.
We're giving them a mailing address.
Oh, brother does not have a P.O. box yet. Don't send us things.
No. Oh. So, last week, what day was that? I wrote this down. Hold on. I will give you an exact date. That was
oh dear.
Oh no. Anyway, several days ago, we got in our mail a media box or a shipping thing from Zazzle, and I went, "What is Zazzle?" So I opened it up. It's a great. What? Go ahead.
That name sounds familiar to me. Why should I know that?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I open up and there's a T-shirt inside, and printed on the T-shirt says, "It's duck season," and that's it.
Aaron, did you ship something to Collin by mistake?
And Collin, go on. I'm intrigued now.
And so I looked up Zazzle. Zazzle is a company where you can go online and order one-off printings on
custom T-shirt. Okay,
t-shirts.
that's why I must have seen an ad or a commercial or something at some point because that name sounds familiar.
Now, I'm looking at the shirt going, what? And I have one thing that's triggered it. Do you guys know the relationship of where this phrase comes from? It's duck season.
It's
Bugs Bunny.
It's rabbit season. It's duck season. It's duck season. It's rabbit season. Fire!
Yeah,
exactly. I know what this means, and I'm like, but I have no idea who this is from. So I I get in the tracking thing, and I go blah blah, and it goes to says it was shipped from Texas, and I'm like, oh, well, Megan and I have somebody that does not like us, like vehemently hates us for the other podcast, and has like called us and kind of harassed us and stuff. And I go, they live in Texas, and at the end of the cartoon, the duck always ends up getting shot. Is this some weird threat through Bugs Bunny? And so I call Zazzle, and I'm like, hey, I got this shirt sent. And they're like, sweet, how do you like it? And I was like, well, I didn't order it. And they're like, well, do you have anything on your account? And I said, I don't think you quite understand. Up until 3 minutes ago, I had never heard of Zazzle. And they were like, oh, well, I guess Merry Christmas. And I was like, well, but see, they sent it to my business name, and I have no idea what's going on. And they were like, oh. And so they thought it was a mistake, but they looked at the order and they said, no, the person put in your address. And so I was like, I know you probably can't tell me who sent this for privacy reasons, but could you like just let them know we got it? We say thanks, right? Like, I didn't know what to say. I just kind of like to prod. And he was like, yeah, no.
I know you can't tell me unless you can, right? Can you tell me who sent me this mysterious t-shirt?
And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do that because this is kind of weird. And I said, it's very weird. And sure enough, we immediately got an email from somebody who we've interviewed on the podcast who accidentally had an autofill for our information, and she was trying to send the t-shirt to her brother.
So it wasn't your enemy.
It was not our nemesis.
Okay, so my follow-up question, if it was the enemy, was it the right size shirt? Did they no? Does it fit?
No, it was huge.
Okay.
So I was a little offended too. I was like,
even weirder, like it fits perfectly.
Like your shirt, Collin.
They had it hand tailored.
I hope you love it.
And so then we had to ship it back to her, or ship it to her so she could get it to her brother. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, Megan and I had like we had 24 hours of, we were like, is this some weird threat? Like, I don't even know how to do with this right now. Like, it makes no sense.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I like it.
So Zazzle,
sending wrong people t-shirts. That's what
Zazzle and
Nate. Weird that they had your thing auto-filled after like one interview. That's very bizarre.
It was very bizarre. But knowing this person, it makes perfect sense for how they operate. So it was just like, oh my gosh, like, it was totally.
Maybe their brother's name is also Collin, and they just like added.
I don't know.
Messed up,
but it was just like sweet. So
that's pretty cool. I've just texted Susan to ask her. I don't know if she's by her phone right now. The name of the thing, but like we got this is a couple months ago, maybe in her Amazon order. She ordered something from Amazon, right? And inside the order was like this coin thing. In like a coin sleeve, right?
Oh.
And she was like, what the heck is this? Like, what? And it had like a name on it and like this stuff. And so like, she was like really confused. Like, what is this? Well, I don't understand what this is. And so she called Amazon, and they were like, or she didn't call Amazon. She called the name because it was like it was like a promotional thing, right?
Yeah.
And for this book, and it's about like I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm gonna see if she texts me, but it's about like the hidden history of stuff, right? Like,
Ooh.
right, but that's what I can't remember the name of it. But this coin was in the box, and she was like, "Okay, that's weird." So she looked it up. She found the author, and she messaged him. It was like, I got this, and I don't know why. And the lady was like, "You got it in Amazon box?" And she was like, "Yeah, it was in an Amazon box." She's like, "We're not distributing through Amazon."
What?
So somehow this thing, like, I don't know if it, because the box was kind of like messed up by FedEx or whatever, and so it was like the top was open just a little bit. So I don't know if somehow something fell in the truck and it fell out and then it fell into our box.
Oh my
But
god!
we have this like gold commemorative coin. It's like a commemorative coin thing for like the upcoming release of their book that they were going to put out.
That's bizarre.
And so she messaged the lady, and the lady was like, "Well, I guess it's yours now." So we have it. And so, yeah, it was really weird though. It took like days to figure out like why was this thing in our Amazon box?
Mhm.
What is happening? And I think because it was so small and so thin, I think it just, the only thing that anybody could reason is that it fell out and then like of something and then just landed on our box and just like slid in there in the FedEx truck or in the shipping somewhere in shipping. There was this weird thing that happened and it did that. So like, so obviously we bought the book afterwards. It's on our coffee table right now.
God.
I just can't remember.
So
I bought it.
You suckers.
It's really, yeah, it worked, right? Their secret marketing plan
that they
of
didn't.
really, or alternate theory, they just have a plant in the shipping department just like flinging these into boxes.
100% what I think is going on. It's like, oh, you work in the Amazon
Right? There's just a
factory.
guy. They just paid a guy from FedEx, right?
Good morning. Take
At like the hub, right? Like in
80
Kansas City
of
or
these,
Memphis.
put
Like,
them in your pocket.
dude, yeah, just like randomly on your shift, just like fling these into boxes. Right? Don't worry. It's not suspicious at all to have 100 of these giant things in your pocket. It's fine.
Just say you really
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
you forgot your lunch that day and you're eating out of the
Yeah. Oh, you could put them in your lunchbox.
box. There you go.
That would be perfect.
Oh,
It'd be great. But like, yeah, so we bought it because we're like, well, you know, we went through all this trouble, this whole mystery, and then we actually messaged the author of the book online. So like, I guess we'll buy one.
gee.
Wow.
uh,
Well, let us know how the
Pretty
book
great.
is. The book review.
oh, it's pretty good. She said it's good. I haven't read too much of it, but it's she said it's really interesting. It's like one of those things. It's like short little sections about like where stuff comes from or like how it came to be. But it's a lot of it's like city based, right? It's based on like urban architecture and structure and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's pretty cool. I'm gonna go look for it real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Vamp for like 2 seconds.
Vamp, Aaron.
Yes. Hello.
I'm
I'm trying to think if I have any stories where I've received something kind of out of the ordinary or not at all. Vamping.
do some spoken word poetry. Go.
I don't know any poetry. There was a I'm trying to think. Shelby had ordered a necklace like months ago, and like granted with the holiday seasons now, it's just been absolutely crazy to finally get a hold of. And I think after like 5 or 6 months, like it's finally like in the state of Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a thing like where it got here and then it was like sent back because like, oh well, this is not the right address. And we're like, no, it is, we promise. And so yeah, it's been a whirlwind of just trying to find it. But it's finally in the state, so we at least know where it's at now.
Did you order from like Wish?
No, it was
6 to 8 month delivery cycle.
It was like some like jewelry thing from like Colorado.
Oh, like a small time, like
yeah, and they just like threw it in a box and they're like, all right, here it is. Get them.
Was it? It was from Etsy, wasn't it?
No, heavens no.
Never delivered ever.
I ordered a map of the Star Wars universe, thinking it was going to be like, this is a really big thing. It was like some dude printed it out of the thing and stuck it on a paper, and it took like 4 months to get to me. I was like, it's just a map.
Yeah,
I could have drawn this in that.
I could have printed that off the internet. We do it. Yeah,
I could have done.
Etsy's rough. It's a real hit or miss. Everybody I know that orders stuff out there, it's like either like something that's like $7 million because it's like handcrafted by one guy in his basement over the course of several weeks, or it's like complete trash that is way overpriced and never shows up. Anyway, I found the book.
Okay, and the book.
Hey.
Oh, okay,
real quick. So, book plug, unsolicited book plug. Thank you, random mailing accident for this. It's called
allegedly accident.
Alleged mailing accident, or hyper confusing marketing plan. Either way, it worked. It's called the 99% Invisible City, right? And that's what the coin had on it, and that's why we're like,
what is it?
So it's the undertitle here is The Field Guide to the Hidden World of Everyday Design.
Oh yeah.
So it's got all these little sections about like how stuff is like things that you don't really recognize, but it's very urban, like city oriented, like architectural, city construction, neighborhoods, like stuff like that. It's really pretty cool.
I love.
So it's by Roman Mars and Kurt Colster. Yeah, I think they do have a podcast. I
listen to their podcast all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I think that's what it was. They have a podcast and they printed this book. Mm-hmm. Right. It's really cool. So like if you guys out there like books, I guess. Mm-hmm. A little late for Christmas, but some other holiday.
Some other
national
with the coins.
Yeah, it's Roman Mars and Kurt Kolst. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Kolstedt.
Yep.
Kolstedt. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, the coin thing just said the 99% Invisible City. We're like, what? How bizarre is that?
Love it.
So yeah, fellow podcasters and authors. The book's pretty cool. And of course, as you can imagine, the design of the book is excellent, and a whole book about design. Yes. So they definitely didn't skip there. That's really cool. Got lots of pictures and little insets and cool art things in there. So it's really pretty cool. So yeah, the accidental book that we just like, well, we have to buy it now because we have to know what this is about.
That's cool.
Yeah. Ugh. Sorry, I interrupted your story there, but.
Oh, sorry, that's all right.
Cool. I like it. Wow.
Yeah.
Book recommendations.
There you go.
Ready to go. Well.
Or you could read some Rene Descartes. Whichever you're in the mood for this holiday season.
Don't read Rene Descartes over holiday season.
Always read Rene Descartes. Oh. There are more accessible philosophers. I will give you that. But
yeah, you make it sound like the gulf is not huge between those two categories.
It's a bit wide. I'm gonna get
I'm just okay. Fine. I'll be really honest here.
They go together because they're both important in the cyberpunk universe. Look at that.
And rounded us out. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
Design and philosophy. Come on.
That disappointment.
What?
Well, love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, listener, this is me jumping back on here. I want to thank you for sticking with us for so long. I mean, you sit here week after week and listen to hour-plus long episodes, and it really means an awful lot that you continue to show up. So make sure you are checking out our website at obrotherpodcast.com. And if you really love us and you really want to go the extra mile for your favorite podcast about nothing in particular by three people that you don't know, head on over to iTunes or wherever you're listening and leave us a rating, a review, whatever that means in your podcast app of choice. You don't know how much that would mean to us. So thank you very much, and we'll be back again next week.